Good morning. It's a beautiful morning here in Kentucky, and this morning I want to talk to you a little bit about basil. I have 2 patches of basil. They're quite small. I really wish that I would have planted a whole lot more, but it's not too late, so that's something I'm going to do. But basil is one of my favorite herbs. And one of the things I love to do with it is make pesto. I had honestly not had a lot of experience with pesto, either making it or eating it, and actually I've only ever made one recipe, but it was so good. So it inspired me to want to grow as much basil as possible so that I could make pesto, because with pesto you need a lot of basil. And I'm going to be showing you today how to make pesto and how to harvest your basil and how to make your basil plant last as long as possible. So you can see that each stalk of the basil plant has lots of other little leaves growing from it. So you want to make these branch out. So to do so, you need to take these little ends and clip them off, so that this part here will form 2 little branches. But of course we need a lot more leaves than that, so we are going to be just plucking leaves all over the plant, but we're going to be careful to also pinch off these little ends because we want to make the plant produce more and more and more. Wow, this smells amazing. So fun to be outside early in the morning. I've got quite a lot done this morning, even before the kids got up, and isn't this kitten so adorable? Esther is awake and ready to play with her kittens, although this little kitten belongs to Hannah. Does she have a name yet, Esther?
I don't know.
You don't know her name? What's your kitten's name?
Fluffers.
Fluffers, and here is Fluffers. Isn't she adorable? This basil plant is growing outside our puppy barn, and I haven't picked any of this at all. It's maybe a little bit older than the one in the garden, and as you can see, this is going to flower. So these little seeds, maybe they're going to be good for planting and making another plant. However, this plant really should have had the ends clipped off. So I'm going to do that now. It should have been done before now, but there is plenty of really good basil here. So as you can see, my bowl is filling up, but I need a lot. Esther is going to be harvesting some basil too. Just pick off the good looking leaves. Yeah, go ahead and take the whole end off and put it in the bowl. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Good job. Doesn't it smell amazing, Esther? It smells so good. Do you like that?
It smells yucky.
It smells yucky? It doesn't smell yucky. It smells so good.
Can you get down?
You want to pick some more? Okay, we don't want to let the kitty in the bowl. Got to give those a good wash anyway.
This is good too.
Yeah, go ahead and pick that one.
This one good. And this one good.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. All right. Harvesting basil is such a great early morning activity. The air is fresh, the birds are singing, the dew is on the grass, the morning is quiet, and I'm just anticipating making this wonderful pesto out of this amazingly smelling basil. Come along with me and let's see what we're going to do. We want to give this pesto a really good wash, get off any dirt. I didn't see any bugs at all, and that's a wonderful thing. I think maybe it smells so strongly that the bugs don't like it, but I sure do. Esther is one of my great helpers in the kitchen, and she is helping to wash the basil. She's the only one up so far. She's my early morning girl. Okay, so you're going to place the pesto in the blender, and I've gone ahead and doubled the recipe and maybe even thrown in some extra basil leaves. So you want to squish the basil leaves down. I've got 5 cups total of basil leaves in here. Now I have 5 children and I love it a lot, so I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of pesto. So I'm going to go ahead and add about 1/4 cup of dry roasted almonds that have a little sea salt in them. And you can blanch the almonds first, but I didn't do that for sake of time and convenience. Also going to add about 1/4 cup of cashew nuts. These are just raw cashew nuts, and instead of this you can use 1/2 cup of pine nuts, which I don't have. So the thing is with cooking is you can always be flexible and use adaptability. That's very important. But pesto traditionally has pine nuts, but it certainly doesn't have. I've got 6 to 8 garlic cloves for this recipe, and that's fresh garlic. That's important. And if you're going to use this pesto today, the day you make it, the garlic is going to be just a little stronger. If you want the flavor to be a little bit more subdued, not quite so hot with garlic, you can do this the day before, and of course you could also add less garlic. Sometimes things like this are nicer the next day, but we are going to enjoy this today. I'm adding 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. It would be even better if it was fresh lemon juice, but I'm using this, which is kind of the next best. I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of nutritional yeast flakes, and that just adds a really nice flavor. It also has vitamin B12 in it, and it's just so delicious. I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt. And salt is actually very important for you. I use this sea salt whenever I can. This is from Trader Joe's, and it's very important to get the right kind of salt because you want to have the iodine in your diet. That is quite hard to get, and one of the good ways to get it is getting a good sea salt. Okay, I'm adding 2/3 of a cup of olive oil. Now with this type of blender, I have a Vitamix. If you have a Vitamix or another high-powered blender, you can add the ingredients in any order. Otherwise, it would be beneficial to add the nuts and the oil and blend those up really well and gradually add the other ingredients. But even with this being a high-powered blender, I'm still going to use the little plunger that comes along. You can also add a little crushed red pepper, which I'm not doing because my children generally don't really like spicy things, even though I do. But since there are so many of them and one of me, I am going to leave it without the red pepper. But if you enjoy a little kick, then go ahead and add it. Pasta has this plunger, and I really recommend, if you don't have a high-speed blender, I really recommend getting one, because if you're going to be doing cooking in the kitchen, this is really something that is going to be so useful for so many things. And I've had this for several years, and I do not regret this purchase. It's a little bit pricey, but it's definitely worth it. So go ahead and turn the blender on. And there we go. Turn it around a little bit so it's going a little bit harder. Turn the dial. There you go. Other way. A little bit more. Keep going. Do it a lot more. Do it all the way. Smooth pesto. I'm going to put it in a container and wait until lunchtime. It's a little salty. It's really good. What do you think, Esther? You like it? Do you like it, Joshua? You want to try it again?
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Good. I am sauteing some tofu to go ahead and put on top of the basil pesto dish that I'm making with pasta. So the best thing to do with tofu for things like this is to freeze it. Go ahead and freeze it for a few days. Not just one night, that's not enough. It needs to be at least, probably at least 2. But you can keep tofu in the freezer for quite a while. Then you thaw it. You can thaw it overnight, and then squeeze out all the water and cut it into little cubes. If you like big cubes, do big cubes, but I like the small cubes. And then you saute it lightly in olive oil and add a little salt. I haven't gone ahead and seasoned it with anything else because I want the full flavor of the pesto to be throughout the whole dish. So I went ahead and harvested some squash from the garden, which I'm lightly sauteing with onions. The onions are not from the garden. My onions are not really ready yet. I could take some green onion pieces until they are ready with the bulbs. But I really like this. Some of us in my family really like to have this squash with just a little olive oil and salt, and I'm going to serve this alongside with the pesto and pasta. Okay, after the squash mixture was ready, I put it into a serving dish, and I took some peppers from the garden, and this I'm lightly sauteing them in the same pan that the squash was in. I'm not going to cook them very much. I'm just kind of letting them brown just a little bit as a little garnish for our supper today. So it's going to be real pretty, and some of it, a lot of it, is homegrown. So that is always really delicious.
That smells so good.
Okay, I have used rice pasta, the elbow kind, which is not my favorite to use, but I wanted to use rice pasta, which I typically get from Trader Joe's, only I was out. So the thing that we have to always remember with cooking is it's totally 100% okay to be adaptable, and it's even needful, and sometimes you'll find something that you like better. So I've got this ready to go. The peppers are browning nicely. Hannah is stirring them for me. Thank you, Hannah. Okay, I have everything served on a serving platter. I have the pesto with the pasta, and I have some peppers from the garden lightly sauteed with some tofu lightly sauteed, and then I have the garnish of the basil on top and the squash and onions on the side. It's going to be a very delicious meal. Let's see what people think.
Mom, can I it's so good. It's so good.
I have tasted it and it is delicious. Whether in pesto or any other dish, try to incorporate basil into your diet. It is really good for you. It is really good to help you think clearly. It alleviates anxiety and depression, and it also helps age-related memory loss. So it's definitely something that you want to incorporate in your diet as often as possible. And you know what? The aromatherapy benefits also are pretty amazing. Enjoy.